Do researchers actually make good money? I want to talk about that today, and I'm going to talk about how you can actually become wealthy in the long run by doing some really simple things, and hopefully this is going to help you out a lot. So, do researchers actually make good money? The issue is that there's huge variance between what kind of researcher you are and what you are going to do. So if you just have a simple undergrad and you're working in a science lab, some sort of, whether it's a chemistry or some biology lab of some sort, maybe it's at a hospital or something like that, they don't make as much money as what you'd assume that they would make. If you're the lead researcher in a certain area, you might with an undergraduate degree, but generally not. And now, if you have a PhD, you might make a little bit more, but it's not as much as you think it is. In fact, I would say that the effort and time that you put in for most people for a PhD is probably not worth it financially. There's just far too much cost that's involved because of how long it actually takes. Now, there is a large, what's called a variance, right? That's what we're going to be talking about. The differences between one kind of researcher and another kind of researcher. And I'd highly recommend for you to look at that. So in my field, in business, for example, in an American university, I'm actually paid pretty well. And it took a lot of work and effort to actually get here. My undergrad is an engineering degree. Then I went and did business degrees at the end after that and a doctorate. I'm paid pretty well. And so what you would think about is like, oh my gosh, like maybe that's representative of everybody. No, it's not actually. So you have to look at the variance across everybody in every particular field. So you might be thinking, what is pretty well? What is the sort of range? Well, if you are a researcher on the low end, you might be making $30,000, $40,000, right? If you're a researcher in a library, for example, you might be making $30,000, $40,000 a year. Now, on the high end, if you're a researcher in a neurology lab and you're doing something with, maybe it's neurochemistry for cancer research, and it was very, very specific and it was very important for society, you might be making $250,000, $300,000 a year if it was critical for society. And you have to sort of look at that and think about that there is this huge variance in how long it actually takes to actually get there. So whatever research career that you're thinking of going into, it's interesting, right? I wouldn't say that a lot of people love it and like it and all that kind of stuff. I was just having this conversation yesterday with a colleague of mine. I think we all really like the dopamine rush. We don't like when we find something, we discover something, we get this sort of injection of dopamine in our brains and we get really excited. But it is a lot of work. It's grinding work for the most part, over and over and over again. And so that's what you got to look at. If that is the thing that you're really interested in and you really like, then that is going to be something that's good. But what I would highly recommend for you to do is think about how you can pick a sort of spot and a position, a degree, whatever you're looking at in terms of narrowing in the future where you're doing well, right? Like you're in a position that the thing that you're doing is valued, and that there's not too many people out in the world that can actually do this particular thing. And that is the key, right? Of thinking about how many other people that can actually do this thing, how much training it actually takes to actually get there, and whether it's valued by a lot of people and valued by private industry, for example. So now you might be thinking, how do you actually become wealthy in the long run? It's actually really simple, and it has very little to do with your salary. A lot of people think it has to do with your salary, but from what I understand, and I don't know that much, from what I understand, it's actually about the behaviors that you do with the salary that you have. So even if you're making $45,000 a year, by the time that you're 65, 70 years old, you can be making, you can have a large sum of money and millions of dollars that you've saved and that you have access to. And how you do that, take 15% of everything that you ever make, 10 to 20%, 15% is a nice little level of everything that you ever make, and put it into long-term mutual funds or index funds. I really like index funds. What you're doing is you're betting on the economy. And as you're betting on the economy rising at a certain rate, the general economy, S&P 500 index funds, they will rise at 10% per year. By the time you've been doing this for 30, 40 years, day in and day out, you have a large sum of money, no matter how much money you're actually making. It really is about this compound interest that you actually get. So I want you to become extremely wealthy. If you pay attention to just simply that, there's a lot of other things that you could do, but if you just pay attention to that, get like your basic insurances, life insurance, health insurance, those kind of things, then you will be wealthy, very, very wealthy in the long run. It's really simple to actually do those things. Now it's simple, but nobody does it. It is really, really hard to do. Most people are terrible with this kind of stuff because it's behaviorally hard to do. It requires a lot of work and effort to actually get there. And so that's where I want to point out is it doesn't matter what salary that you're going to get. It doesn't matter any of those kind of things. Yes, it matters some, right? Like if you're making $250,000 a year, it's going to be a lot easier to do this than it is if you're making $40,000 a year. However, if you take that proportion of 10%, let's say, of $40,000, that's $4,000 a year. That's not as much as what it would be for somebody that was making a lot more. $4,000 is still quite doable, and that $4,000 will grow over 30 to 40 years to millions of dollars, literally millions of dollars if you do this, time in and time out, and you just keep doing it day in and day out. You forget about everything else. And if you have a trouble of doing that 10 to 15% or 15%, that's what we do. We probably do a little bit more. If you're having trouble to do that. What I want you to do is aim at saving $1 every single day. That's it. Aim at $1 every single day. And if you did that over the course of 3 months, then I want you to actually add it up. And instead of doing $1 a day, I want you to do $2 a day because of coffee today. And $2 a day, if you do that for a couple of months, you're going to be at $60 a month. That's pretty good, right? But then I want you to ratchet it up to $3 a day. And by the time you've done this, up until about 3 or 4 years later, you're going to be saving the right amount by doing that. It's incremental to do it, tiny little bits, but it does actually get you there, and it turns into millions and millions and millions of dollars as you're doing this. Now, here's the cool thing that you're thinking about and what's happening. As you are actually doing this and you start out, you're not making that much money. It's usually people at the beginning that are not making that much money, right? It's as you get more senior in your career, you start making more and more money as you invest in what you're actually doing. And when you do that, over the course of many years of doing this behavior, you start saving lots and lots of money because you're making more and more and more within your particular career. So I want you, that's how you're going to get wealthy. It has nothing to do with your salary. The way that you get wealthy is to save and save and save, invest, save and invest, save and invest, save and invest. Day in and day out, everybody's making fun of you. You're doing things that are really weird and unusual. You're driving around in junky cars. You're having hand-me-down clothes, all of those kind of things. Everybody's looking at you and thinking that you've gone crazy. But that's what you do, day in and day out, until you actually get to the point where you've actually saved a significant amount of money and you're actually wealthy. Nothing to do with the salary, everything to do with the behavior of the people that actually get the salary. So I want you to keep that in mind. All right, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye. Oh, and if you haven't done so, go check out the Reciprocity Project, reciprocity.com. The E is written with a 3. Hopefully it's going to help you out.